2022 and hashtag have a ZW. So thank you very much for joining us once again. We are moving on to our next program. We are going to be discussing how African digital media startups are disrupting coverage in Parliament. How are these media startups disrupting coverage? So this is the conversation we're having, and I'm going to begin with Richard. Richard, if you can. Richard Mulonga is from Zambia. He's with the Bloggers of Zambia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not as loud as Nigerian. I've been denied the microphone, but it's fine. I'm in Harare here. We know how you treat Zambia, so it's fine.
I hope you can hear him clearly. Is he clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I'd also want to welcome Hassan Osman. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He is from Somalia. He is with Open Pali Somalia. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Busayo, again, Open Pali Nigeria, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard, I'll begin with you. Tell us a bit about Bloggers of Zambia in 2 minutes. What the work that you do in regards to opening up Parliament.
Thank you very much. Bloggers of Zambia, yeah, so our thematic areas of work are digital rights, civic tech, and media and information literacy. We are partnered with Magamba for, you ask for so how long, but we also do Open Parliament Zambia. Yeah, we basically use technology to disrupt. You know, for us, we're no longer in the information age. You know, we're in the computer age, we're in the information age. For us, we are in the age of disruption. And we love it because technology and democracy have an intersection. And, you know, we're coming from a history where most of the rot actually that is hidden away from the people, most of the bad things that are happening are hidden under the carpet. And now we have the technology, and this technology has just disrupted all that, and it has empowered the people with all that Busai was talking about, that, you know, we're able to even look in the bedrooms of those that we claim to democratically elect and be able to make them accountable for the decisions that they make, they pretend to make when they're in the public, and those that, you know, they make when they are in those not so private spaces. So we love the disruption that is going on, and this is the wind that we are taking across Zambia, that, you know, especially young people, that we should use this technology and be able to make sure that the people just get equality, the people just get respect and dignity from the people that, you know, that step in the public office. So that is the work that we do at Bloggers of Zambia. And sometimes we get beaten for it, sometimes we get threatened for it, but we're in the age of disruption, so be it.
We're in the age of disruption, so be it. Thank you very much for that. Hassan, tell us a bit about the work that you do in 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Hassan. I'm from Somalia. I work with Open Pali in Somalia, known as Alfadi. We usually focus on youth in understanding political participation and also good governance. In Somalia, we have several media houses, but most of them, they focus on political issues. But us, we focus on how the youth, women and youth can participate in political participation. And we also focus on especially women. How can they engage political country? The majority of the media in Somalia is small. You may have heard Somalia is one of the most dangerous places for journalists in the world. Every time you had journalists attacked, some of them have been killed. So they are now doing better to get top.
Okay. The issue of attacking journalists is quite common on the African continent, and we will have this discussion to say, how do we continue doing our work, you know, despite this danger that we are facing? And Busayo, tell us a bit about Open Pali Nigeria. Barely a year old. What kind of work are you guys up to?
Yeah, so Open Pali Nigeria, you know, basically is young, like I try to establish. But the focus is not like Zim or even Somalia. Zambia, it's more towards subnational governance, and it's quite deliberate. Nigeria is fairly big. If we want to focus on the federal parliament, we'll be doing a great disservice to the people who are mostly affected by the actions or inactions of parliament in their state. So we decided to focus on that. So with that, we branched out to just taking it in tidbits. So we're working in 3 Nigerian states for now. But it's been a worthwhile experience, and I think one of the things we've learned is how citizens are becoming more open to conversations around the parliament. It used to be the governor. Everybody looks at the governor. Nobody looks at the lawmakers who are supposed to make laws, who are supposed to ensure they perform oversight on the executive, or to hold them in what is it called? There's a name it's called in a democracy. The parliament is supposed to be a check, checks and balances, on the executive. People are beginning to understand that the entire problem is not just from the governors. That the legislators in the parliament who get paid, from taxpayers' money are also part of the problem. So we're beginning to see lawmakers call for public hearings, on bills, that are presented. They want to have an opinion of citizens, and I think it's quite novel, from where we stay.
Well done for doing that. Coming back to you, Richard, the countries represented here, Zambia included, practice participatory democracy. To what extent do you think that your organization opening up parliament to Zambians influenced their decision making when it came to elections?
So the thing is, you see, our parliament was very closed. At parliament there are so many, it's the main public institutions, like there are so many structures, red tape, you can't do this, you can't do that. So even there are certain protocols, journalists, even the dress code and all that. It has an effect on information flow, how citizens access their leaders, how citizens access parliamentary processes and all that. Information is on your website, but how many Zambians have access to the internet? How many Zambians have got digital skills and all that? So people rely on radio and television. There's parliament radio now. But even then, that is information that is, to some extent, censored. Like, it's information that is designed in a certain way for citizens. And that is what citizens are fed on. So the coming of technology has helped to open up parliament, because the demand was that the parliament is too closed. So we went to parliament and engaged them that, okay, we want to do this thing. And they opened up. When we left, in the afternoon, our parliament opened up a Facebook page, okay? And they started streaming parliamentary sessions. When we left, we had, I think we got the concept from here, Meet Your MP. Our parliament started doing Meet Your MP. So you saw that they are going to lose the audience, they are going to lose the citizens to a civil society influence. They actually got onto the innovation, and this has helped our parliament to actually even go on Twitter. You get a point. You can find profiles of members of parliament and just all these things. And during the elections, technology has, even our elections, technology played a big role. There was actually a narrative, and it was during COVID-19, and there were these gimmicks of using the COVID-19 protocols to ensure that the other political players do not participate fairly in the elections. Like there's COVID, go and campaign on Facebook, on Twitter, and the other online platform in WhatsApp. How many voters in Zambia have got access? Let me tell you, just like here in Rhodesia, in Zimbabwe now, the further you move away from Harare, you go to Chinoi, the further also the quality of internet deteriorates. It's like that in Zambia. And in Zambia, the majority of the voters are in the rural areas. But someone is telling you to go and campaign on Facebook and in WhatsApp. It was an election malpractice, providing unfair field and all that. But also, the fact that the technology itself was being, it has got no influence in the democracy, and they're like, no, those guys, let them just go and do their thing in Facebook. They're these keyboard warriors and all that. It has got effect. For us, we're on the ground. And remember, in Zambia, we have a law that allows the president and the vice president to go and inspect what? Developmental projects. Well, everyone else doesn't have that privilege. So during the heat of the campaigns, the president and the vice president could fly with the government planes to any part of the country to go and inspect developmental projects. All their friends are on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. And the elections came. Those that were on the ground inspecting developmental projects lost the elections by 2.8 million votes. Why? Because the 2.8 million were on Facebook and Twitter, and they were doing their thing. And we are happy about it because for us, technology is the future. For us, it has worked, and for us, it has continued to work. But I know even here, I still want to go home. I know even in some parts of Africa, there's this wave of internet laws that are coming to stop the 2.8, as exemplified by Zambians, from having that influence, from giving citizens that power, to be able to the power that has enabled citizens to be part of governance processes, for citizens to perform their civic duties like transparency and accountability functions that Saya was talking about a while ago and all that. So that is our story, and young people in Zambia are very happy about just what is going on during elections. I know you're looking at me with evil eyes because you think I've taken much of your time, but just the last point, that the technology, the social media in particular, played a big role to ensure that our elections were transparent. Because in the past, I know elections are sensitive in many places. Election results would grow legs from the polling station to the national totaling center. Okay? But this time, people ensured that, in fact, in Zambia, we had a blockage of social media: Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram. We didn't have them. So we turned out the VPNs, and everyone had a VPN. And the people ensured that they had the data. And people were able to track elections, including those, especially in those places, the so-called, I don't know what you call them in other parts of Africa, the strongholds of this party and the other party. Citizens managed to track the election results, the numbers from the polling station all the way to the totaling center, and people did not sleep. And there was COVID-19, there was no way we could do that physically. People sat in the homes and the people were discussing results, and there was this back and forth. So we are happy that we were able to protect the vote and ensure that it was sanitized, it reflected the will of the people, and that is just the influence of technology on the elections. And justifying that nexus, that connection between technology and democracy, which is that now we are relying more on technology to make democracy function. Why am I saying that? Because it's an expression issue, assembly and association, that for democracy to function, people have to express themselves. People have to assemble and associate. And we are doing that online. And I know even as Rhodesians, you can borrow. The queen just died, so we are still, Rhodesia, Nyasaland, yeah.
I totally understand. So thank you very much for that. So you have explained the nexus between technology and democracy, and how the bloggers of Zambia are opening up parliament, and how now the parliament of Zambia is, went and opened a Facebook page and also live streaming due to your influence. That's good work. And Hassan, what is your relationship with Parliament? And how accessible is Parliament to journalists? Because obviously, if you want to open up Parliament, you have journalists going there. How accessible is it to the media?
Yes, thank you so much again. In Somalia, the story about election parliament is totally different from the other African countries. Our election is like all the MPs came together and elected the president. That's the way they elected the president, and each lawmaker was elected by one person, Iskalan. That is an indirect election called sidelines.
So there's like an electoral college.
Yes, but it is indirect election. The people where the people cannot vote. In the local media and journalists, they don't usually go to the parliament to cover what the parliament is there. The people have limited knowledge about the work of the parliament, And such situation is not a health for democracy. And you know, Somalia has been in a war for more than 3 decades, whereas the people can now understanding the governance and what the government is doing for people. So it is the local journalists have a limited access to the government data, including what is going on. For example, Somalia has not had without a crisis for the last 80 years. Because there is a piracy sometimes, there is a drought, there is COVID-19, everything is there. So there is no a government agency which can have the data or open the data for the citizens, especially for the journalists. So mostly the journalists do not have access to what the government is doing for the people. So simple, I can say that we don't have enough relation with the government as a journalist. But when we started up Open Parliament in Somalia, we try to go directly to the parliament, do a live coverage, and tell the people what is going there. Simply, parliament is a place where the conflict is not settled, and then agreement is reached. So now the people can reach a status where they can ask for the open parliament in Somalia, what will be the agenda for the parliament tomorrow. That's how they now understanding gradually what the parliament is doing. Sometimes we have received a call from the MPs saying we don't receive any message from the speaker, so what we are going tomorrow to discuss as MPs. So you know that we are doing...
So you're saying MPs are now relying on you for information if they don't get information from Parliament?
Definitely. Yes, that's how we are gradually doing.
That's awesome work. But, you know, it's one thing to open up Parliament and, you know, bring that information to the people. How accessible is it to the ordinary man and woman on the street? Remember, Richard was talking about majority of the people in Zambia are in the rural areas. I don't know in Somalia. To what extent is it accessible to everyone? And even looking at data costs?
Yes, the rural area, where the people cannot get internet or do not have a TV where they can watch what is going on at the Parliament House. So usually what we can do is use radios to do some programs and also invite some of the MPs to make a conversation about what kind of work they have done and what is next. That is how we reach the rural area.
Okay, so you take the information that you have distributed online and then distribute via radio. Yes, radio is the old medium, but still very useful. And Messiah, when you brought up this idea of opening up Parliament, it meant that I think before Open Parliament, I've seen that Senate actually broadcast on Facebook. Yeah. But when you went ahead and started engaging, you know, National Assembly on opening up, did you get any resistance? And you know, especially when we look at the issue of corruption, and people are trying to hide those issues, didn't you get resistance in regards to opening up Parliament in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think we really didn't get so much resistance, you know, because the team we got working on Open Parliament are guys who have worked with the organization for a long time, you know, and so they are very conversant with citizens engagement, government engagement. So it was a little smooth, you know, than what, you know, would have happened if we were just starting off on a fresh note. So we had a launch pad, you know, already. You see, the challenge is these people would not have a problem with you until you start asking them about the money, right? When you're just talking about the system, the process, it's chilled. We can have a conversation. But when you begin to ask them, how much do you earn? You know, how much frivolous items on your budget? You know, vis-a-vis the work you've done, do you think you've done well? You know, then you begin to see pushbacks and they begin to get angry. You understand? But what we've been able to do is, number one, first of all, build that relationship. You know, and you know, had one-on-one with various speakers, all the speakers of the House of Assembly, with principal officers of parliament also. Unfortunately, most of them are not going to come back after the 2023 general election. They didn't win the primaries of, their political party. So they are going back to their villages or homes or wherever they find themselves. So we're saddled with another responsibility to start another level of engagement post the elections in February. Inauguration is in March 2023. But when you look at the conversation with the citizens, I felt it was the right time to start to spark that up. Because the pulse of Nigeria currently is such that young people are so angry, and it's wisdom for us to use their anger in very productive ways so that it doesn't get out of hand or get violent and all. So we're not facing any resistance with the community. We're also using the radio, and so we have Open Parliament Radio, where we invite parliamentarians, people from the academia, citizens, public affairs analysts, to just have conversations around what's going on in their state parliament. And that's been really impressive, because the amount of listenership we get, the kind of calls we get on each of those radio shows that it was just the right time to push out this product into the market. Sorry, I see everything from a product perspective. I love civic tech. It was just that right time for it to come. We started profiling parliamentarians, but we had to stop because most of them are not coming back. So it was going to be duplication of resources if we do that. So what we're doing now is we're profiling aspirants, of at least 4 major parties, the dominant parties in each of the 3 states we're working in currently. The goal for us is to hit the 36 states. It will be a gradual process, so we're learning, we're making all the mistakes we need to make now. I forgot. We had to create a handbook for citizens and even parliamentarians themselves. We didn't want to insult them to say, I don't think you guys know what you're doing here, right? So we had to create that handbook, and we just distributed it. We're turning those handbooks into local languages now for people who are who do not understand English, but they can read in their various languages, so that it's easily accessible. Because the moment citizens know what parliamentarians are supposed to do, it's easier for them to hold those parliamentarians accountable, which is one of the major drives of Open Party in Nigeria. Citizens must understand the process, but much more than that, ensure that these parliamentarians do the tasks that comes with the money they collect at the end of every month.
I think it's a good thing that you have that handbook, because we also have that challenge here towards elections. You actually hear people talking about, I'm expecting my MP to fix the road, but that's not the MP's role.
Yeah. I was going to speak with that. You see, the first time I had meetings with parliamentarians, and because in these things you have to pacify them in some kind of way. So one of the easiest way we got to them was that we said, Honorable Speaker, do you know that your people think it's your job to do the road? And the guy's so excited, and he says, finally, someone understands this thing. So we say, we'll put it in this handbook, you understand? So you must endorse the work we do with Open Party, you understand? So there's that. As for now, we're cozy, at least we still shake hands, and we still give ourselves pats on the back, but in the next phase of the project, when it gets really deeper, I hope we can still be able to shake hands conveniently.
You will definitely. I mean, Open Party Zimbabwe has survived that, so you will definitely do that. Yeah. But I kind of think, I don't know how you're going to do this. You have over 50 languages and 220 languages, and then you'll need to translate all those in local languages. So I know since you're still in 3 states, let's see how it goes. But we continue wishing you luck. Richard, let's talk about the issue of, before I open up to the floor, the issue of journalists themselves, journalist safety. You're opening up parliament, you're exposing corruption, you're demanding for answers. How safe are journalists, the bloggers of Zambia specifically, how safe are they as they try to navigate in this on this terrain?
So that's the thing. We do a lot of work around press freedom, and especially safety and security of journalists. So particularly we call our project strengthening police media relations for safety and security of journalists. Because ostensibly, there's this cat and mouse, Tom and Jerry kind of relationship between police work and journalism work, that we don't respect each other's work, especially from the law enforcement side. Like journalism is the cornerstone of democracy, freedom of expression issue. So journalists must be able to be free from any kind of, the journalists must be free to do their work. Processing, publishing, processing, collecting, processing, and especially after publishing, that is the biggest problem that we have. And some of the people that actually sit on the safety and security of journalists that infringe on the press freedom are actually the police. Police cordons, when covering VIPs, even just the community when journalists are filming, photography and all that, we get harassed even by very small level police. I don't know what to call them here where we are. I don't want to call it Rhodesia, but here where we are. In Zambia, there are cadres, the cadres like these youths that belong to the various political parties, the foot soldiers. They get beat up as journalists and nothing will happen to them. But that is so disrespectful to the democracy, not to the journalist only, as a person or as an entity, but to the democracy, because journalism, remember, is a fourth estate. Like journalism, if you want to see the state of your democracy, look at the state of your journalism. There's a lot of censorship. In Zambia, we've got this array of laws that have got provisions in themselves that are so detrimental to the conduct of, to the practice of journalism. In Zambia, we actually say practice of journalism is like it's a crime, because even in the Constitution, Article 20 of our Constitution, it talks about freedom of expression. It only mentions freedom of expression, and I think it's only in one line where it mentions press freedom. So we are not protected by law, and we are just like orphans operating without any safeguards. The police can arrest journalists. Just 2 weeks ago, journalists were covering someone who was protesting. But when the police came, they first arrested journalists and then arrested the one who organized the meeting and locked up journalists for 2 hours. So those are things. If you go to the courts of law, there are all these restrictions. You cannot take cameras in the courts. Microphones are not allowed. You just go with your pen and notebook. Actually, there's a case where someone is about to go to, a journalist is about to go to prison because they have been accused of having misquoted some court process. So this is why we're saying that if the courts allow journalists to come with cameras and recorders, these journalists would have had some backup to clear these things. So,
make our life easier.
Yes. So yeah, if you go to parliament again, you know, journalists are restricted because of parliamentary codes and procedures. Journalists are afraid of parliamentary contempt. You know, so you find that you are very careful in what you can write. But journalism is a freedom of expression issue, and there should be no one who should be the arbiter, not even the state, should be the arbiter of what is the truth. You get the point? Yeah, the criminal defamation of the president. So I find that the president, journalists, we have to be very careful about what you write about the president, because if you there are certain things, you defame him, and that law is vague and very broad. But also, defamation is a civil issue. It shouldn't be criminal. The president in my country has immunity. You cannot sue him, but he can sue you as a citizen, as his voter.
But Richard, hasn't this changed with the new regime?
The president actually was on BBC, I'm sure you saw that video, where he says, this is the law now, this is what it is. I cannot change it, but I'm committed to change it, but it has to go through all this legislative process. I don't know how it takes. Yes, he spoke well, but for us, we just want the law to be removed, to be repealed and be changed. But also, journalists suffer from these internet laws, the so-called cyber laws. We have got the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act. I would point at Article Section 54. It's very broad and specific that when you publish certain information, be it in writing, video, sound, blah, 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 and make the other person uncomfortable and all that, you commit a crime and you are liable to so amount of money and so number of years. First of all, it's very broad. How do you define it? How can if you are a minister or an MP and you have stolen, and I'm talking about that as a journalist or as a person, you are annoying, then I must go to prison for it. Or and the penalties are excessive. They are not justifiable. They are not proportionate to the freedom of expression that must be protected. Going to prison for a minimum of 5 years, I think paying something like $10,000. So those are the things like
challenges. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you short there. And just to bring in Hassan, freedom of expression in Somalia, criminalization of the media. What is the status there in Somalia?
Thank you. We are not follow the money. We are not report the corruption because everyone has a gun in the country. So the journalists in Somalia like a fish leaving poisonous water. You see, we can't report anything what we want. But sometimes you can't communicate some of the government officials who are inside the system of government. In Somalia, there is a federal government. There are 5 regional states. Some of the country where you can't have your camera to record or do the PTs on the road. Freedom of expression in Somalia is very different. The open data is a good for the country and the democracy, for the people and the people in the government. They don't understand why this is very kind for people and the country. You see, the country is now moving up and it's growing. The government, they do not elected by the people. They are elected by the clan elders. Everywhere is war. They are fighting with a group of people who wanted to attack the government. So we as a journalist, we are afraid sometimes from the government and sometimes from the people who are doing such illegal things in the countries. So the freedom of expression in Somalia is very low. You can't imagine how the journalists are feeling inside the country.
I can certainly imagine when everybody has a gun and you want to expose corruption. That's a bad recipe. I mean, a recipe for disaster. So let's open up for questions, questions and comments. We have been discussing about opening up parliament and how organizations that these 3 gentlemen are representing are disrupting, the way parliaments are portrayed, how they're reporting on parliament. They are bringing, live streams to the people, negotiating with the National Assembly so that it's more open. Let's have questions and comments.
Thank you very much for the insightful conversation. I think my question is going a bit back to the previous conversation we had with Usayo, and I wanted to ask on how, on other techniques or tools that you guys are using in terms of communicating with citizens or voters who are located in the rural areas, and we can all agree that we have a significant number of citizens who are actually offline. So just maybe other tools that maybe budget, was it, tracker and all those organizations, which tools are they using to communicate with such people in the rural areas?
Okay, let's have a hand here. Do we have a question, comment?
Thank you. My question is related to Mr. Richard. I'm from Wanj.
Yes, Daddy.
I just want to ask, was the open party introduced before or after the election? If it was after if it was introduced before the election, how effective did it influence the society during the election era?
Okay, one more question before. Okay, there's a question. You can come this side so that the camera can capture you as well.
Thank you. Shout out to Shoko Festival for so my question is just basically based on image monitoring and evaluation. I'm one who also works with a civil organization locally, So the major challenge that we're facing is on the effectiveness of these interventions, especially on the monitoring and evaluation side of things, because sometimes we do have these innovative ideas, these innovative responses to these problems, but how effective are they? How do we quantify our what can I say, our intervention? How successful have we been? Then, yeah, no, I think that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And so I'll ask Bisaya to go first. How are you, the tracker and the budget, how are they taking that information? How do you cascade that information down to the rural folks?
Now, so speaking to that, I have to be a little bit more practical. I think there's another session, around Follow the Money where we can probably go more granular on some of these tools and steps we use. There are two ways to look at it, offline and online. Online, we use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're now on TikTok. We're trying to get the Gen Zs, to get interested in the conversation. But that's because those people have access to the internet. Offline, what we do is we have a robust system or network of people, across all communities we've been able to penetrate, right? So we're very big with the community governance structure. That's the local chief, the women leader, the youth leader, all those local community structures that are not even political. Now, the moment we're able to buy their trust through what we call community entry, where we normally use courtesy visits, we go in their traditional attire depending on the part of the country we're going to or the dominant religion. We break kola, they call it, some people call it kola. Kola nuts, it's very traditional. The moment they are able to trust you, it becomes easier for you to speak to them and they'll listen. Even if not all of them will take action, at least one person, will take action in that regard. Now, after our community penetration, we do what is called community outreach. That's the door-to-door engagement. So if I'm tracking a project, for example, a project that's supposed to make her more beautiful, and the government has released $5,000 to up her wardrobe. I hope that happens soon. And one of the first things we try to do is to ensure that we ask her, do you know that the government has allocated $5,000, to up your wardrobe? Most times, I think 98% of the times, the communities do not know. They do not have this information. So that's where data comes in handy. We're able to present this data to them and they see it for themselves. So they believe first that this is there. Then the next process is we'll take them through, that would be long for me to break it down, but we'll take them through processes of how they can be able to follow up on that fund to ensure that it comes to that community. With government cannot spend without the procurement process. We follow up on the procurement process, get the number or the address of the contractor, ensure that the contractor meets with her, because the contractor would have to take her measurement, to be able to sew the right kind of clothes, right, in this context. Now, when we help community do that, we're also training them on the go, because typically we have about 3 months with them. After 3 months, we move to another community. The tailor, in this instance, would have to get the right kind of fabrics. For every contract given, there's what is called the bills of quantities. The bills of quantities shows you the exact kind of material, the exact design of this cloth, imaginary clothes. Would it be shoulderless? Would it be full armed? Would it be wool? And all of this stuff. Now, the community knows this, and because she is the one that is going to wear the clothes, she knows what to be suiting to her skin, for example. Now, we build the capacity of the community to be able to follow, because every community has a local contractor who is either a bricklayer or a mason or a welder or a carpenter. So it's easy for those people to be able to show when the contractor is doing something it's not supposed to do. So, for example, if a bag of cement is supposed to make 50 blocks, and the contractor is using a bag of cement to make 100, the integrity of that block is in question. So we've seen situations where communities themselves would say, no, this is not it, right? We also link community with this government agencies responsible for the project. It's a very long, sometimes frustrating process, because it's not as easy as I'm saying it now, But building that offline movement helps us, in terms of answering the question of sustainability. 100% with the media. I cannot go to a
Let
community.
me just put a pin on that for
Yeah.
the moment, but thank you very much for that. I think it's very interesting how you open up parliament and then you take that information to the rural folks physically. And Richard, there was a question for you. When did you start opening up parliament? Was it before or after the 2001? If you started before the elections, how effective, to what extent did it influence voters during the election?
So also these activities started 2 years and a half before the elections. And we were between a rock and a hard place where freedom of expression, assembly and association was very difficult in my country, where even radio and TV hosts would get beaten on their own show in Zambia. You organize a show, yes.
Live on radio.
You organize a show, phone in, and then a group of young people come and they beat you up, they break your microphones, and they even beat your guests. And then they go. And they switch off the transmitter on radio and television. Same with newspapers, they'll come and beat you. And the police were also between a rock and a hard place. If the police like to come and arrest those people, they will either lose a job or they'll be transferred to the most of the furthest, remotest point of the country. So the police would rather save their job and the family. And so that was what was happening. And it was a big problem. So certain voices, especially the public media, the ZBC of Zambia, there are certain people that we even told, like, do you even use that road where the national broadcaster is? Because their voices, they could not even be covered. It is like an unwritten policy. They will only get covered when they are involved in something wrong. Okay? Even certain women, they will, gender issues that are very important, they would only see in the public media who thrive on public money. They will only cover certain women when those women, for example, are victims of gender-based violence. And when there are issues that are important, the voices of public discourse, that's their opinion. So we told people that, look, we started convening like this conference and all that, different parts of the country. We told them, forget about radio and television. It's captured, both private and public. There's this space that we have. It's open, it's inclusive, it's resilient. It doesn't discriminate whether you're poor or you are a man or a woman, whether you belong to this political party or not. Just go and take your rant there. And that is how it started happening. But we started seeing threats. One TV station was closed, Prime TV. You know about the story. They just canceled their license and they had all this expensive equipment. They couldn't broadcast. We told them there's no law in Zambia that stops you from broadcasting on YouTube. Then we saw the elections law amended to ensure that it encompasses online broadcasting, and we're still fighting that. So from the convenings, we told people like, actually you have a global audience, okay? And these platforms, they don't belong to the state. The state wanted to introduce another tax for accessing Facebook, for accessing Twitter and WhatsApp. You get the point? So we started churning out, like I said, VPS, like samosas and scones from the bakers. Because there were black people, everyone, and the majority of the citizens actually do not trust content that is coming from the public media, because they view it like it's open propaganda. You get the point? Because it's about the president, his wife, the ministers, and all those people from around the country that speak the language. You get the point? Other people are not allowed to be there. So that's why the internet has become popular. Whoever wants as a campaign, there's someone actually right now, a doctor, a medical doctor, who wants alcohol banned in Zambia. He's looking for allies who can join him from the There are people that are doing campaigns around sexual reproductive health. Journalists now, we have trained so many journalists to digital literacy. Out of Facebook, journalism, YouTube, out of Google and all that. And these are journalists, some of them are working for the public media. They write a story, the editor cannot publish it because it is critical of the state. They put it on their Google page, and you find that the main news on the national broadcaster is streaming live, there are 100 people, 250 people watching. But on an individual person who is working for that, if you look at their views, they're actually more than the what? So you can see user-generated content has become so popular, and people trust actually what is coming from other citizens because the censorship. So you find that journalism content, the trust is an issue. The trust is not there because they think that journalists are only writing things to please the state, whether it is in the public media or private media. So that's why the internet is just open. There are problems on the internet, disinformation, misinformation, and all that, cyberbullying and all that. But it is still, in Zambia, has remained a state where, a space where we can start certain conversations. Actually, in Zambia now, journalists just sit, some journalists actually sit in their newsrooms and just monitoring Facebook pages, and that is where the news is coming from. We think that the narrative must change, and so for us, it takes me to the briefly, the last question about monitoring and evaluation.
I was going to give that to Hassan. Just hold on. Let Hassan respond to that, and then you
No,
can
he
come
was
in.
asking me.
Oh, it was asked to him.
Yes.
No, the last gentleman who asked. Okay, it's fine. Go ahead.
Monitoring.
Go ahead and ask.
How do we measure impact, our work, and how do we just respond to the needs of the society? So it's all that I've said. Like sometimes you think you go to a place you think people don't know Facebook, but they actually know more than you know. So you have to go and change your curriculum. Impact, yeah. We think that it's very important, you know, evaluation. Sometimes we do, for example, a short video called "What a Loser." It is naming and shaming all public officers, be it the opposition, the civil society, those that are involved in wrongdoing. But usually, the majority are politicians from the ruling party. So when we put that content there, you will not even see a like on the front page. But if you go, when we do the analytics on the back page, 500 million people have watched it. So we ask ourselves, what is the meaning of that? That is the kind of content people want to consume. But they cannot show it. Why? Because the environment of fear and repression. In Zambia, there are certain Facebook pages where civil servants cannot visit because they are civil servants. You can be fired in Zambia for going to what a page called the Zambian Watchdog, just because it's controversial. So people would rather hide, and then they don't show the face. So that kind of evaluation is helping to generate what kind of content do people want to read.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're going to take the last round of questions before we move on to the next session.
Thanks. Mine is directed to Richard. So Richard, it's a very good analogy that you've given in response to his question. This work, lots of it started before the elections, but it's interesting that in your country then you had a transition. And so I would assume that a lot of those that could not get coverage are now in government. How has that been? And is there a shift with the new administration? Are those that were mistreated now better than those that were mistreated now?
Before you answer that, we have one more question. Do we have any more questions?
Oh, thank you. I heard Richard saying there is an ill treatment of journalists in Zambia, even after the coming in of Hakainde Hichilema. So my question is, what efforts have you put in place to pressure the government to repeal some of the draconian media laws that are affecting journalists?
Thank you very much. Any questions? Going once, going twice. Richard, the floor is yours. Oh, there's a question, sorry.
I hope it's not mine.
You're the lucky one.
I'm right. My question is directed to anyone if you would like to answer. In Zimbabwe, the questions of Zimbabweans are being focused when it comes to the activities online. So how do we now, you as creatives, package your information so that you can kind of lure people to participate and to take part in the narrative that you want to share with the society?
I just want to add on to this. So, majority of the times, you know, whenever there are music shows, youths are on these pages, 2,000 people, or what do you call them, influencers, and talking about issues that are different from what we're talking about. But then when you talk about corruption, when you talk about good governance, there are less views. The issues are not as attractive as what influencers. I think that's his question, to say how then, what are you doing to attract people to be more interested in issues to do with transparency, open government, and open parliament?
So that's the thing. So you find we're discussing this like example, like the journalists. I'm a journalist in training. So two of my former students, they're running this popular page. But they're into human interest kind of narrative, and then others and all that. So issues of corruption. So they would rather wait for a press statement from the Corruption Commission or the presidency that they have fired this one or this has happened. But investigative journalism or to give an opinion is more like a no-no. So we find that journalists on our pages, it's very fun. Instead of putting these issues of corruption or transparency and accountability in the social services like health and education, in Zambia, we borrowed a lot of money. This money was put in construction, and then it was stolen the other side. And there are people that are going before the courts, there are people that got rich overnight. Journalists cannot discuss all that. You go to the Facebook page, there are just issues like selling aphrodisiacs, you get the point. Those things, we're journalists, so why should we pay this kind of narrative when the society expects much more from us because of our role in the democracy? So that is what we are trying to liberate journalists, okay? To liberate journalists, like we're coming from a regime of fear and repression. We have got this regime now that has opened up. All those people that would beat journalists on live shows have gone. In fact, the ruling party in Zambia now, just last week, one of the members of the ruling party has been arrested by the police, and the president said, I will not defend anyone who beats a journalist, who does this wrong thing, abusing the law. I will not do that. Okay, so even journalists, but the journalists are not sure whether to be free or not to be free, because the president is not everywhere, Journalists are still being arrested in Zambia for content that they publish from the social media already, okay? So there's that thing where there's still fear, and journalists don't know really whether the president, because from August 2021, from August 12 up to date, he promised that when I get paid, I get sold in at 12 hours, by 14 hours, the kwacha is going to gain against the dollar. Sometimes it gained a little bit, but he's slowing down on the issues he promised, like enacting access to information law. He said, just give us 3 months after we get power, we enact this law. I'm telling you, our access to information, the Freedom of Information Bill, we also said 12 years. Ours officially, it's 21 years. Okay? But there's another 10 years before that. Okay? So it's about 30 years. Okay? Yeah. And this government said they will do it, but they haven't done it. The president keeps talking about repealing the criminal defamation of the president, the Penal Code, okay, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia, the State Secrets Act, Cap 111 of the laws of Zambia, all those things, they facilitate for the arrest of journalists. So we have these people that have come, maybe old wine in new bottles, but they are speaking the language that journalists and the people want to hear, but they are slow. But he keeps saying that I'm living like Madiba. I will not going to arrest the people that arrested me. I will just provide an environment where we are all going to live in peace, and I'll live by the rule of law. But these other guys who have just lost power, and now they want to look like they're angels. They left us with the criminal defamation of the president. They left us with they were in power for 10 years. They failed to enact the Access to Information Bill, but they're calling on this government that it's wasting time. We have the ICT laws, the Data Protection Act, and the Cyber Security Act. They are crying, but it is them who enacted that law 3 weeks before a very crucial election. Who enacts laws like that? Okay? And when enacting the ICT laws, you know what happened in Parliament? They stood down all the standing orders. So they was just meeting to read the bill. And you have to read it 3 times. The 4th time, it went to the president and became law. And these people now are being arrested and are being charged because they're on Facebook and ranting. So this law is coming to haunt them. That is the kind of democracy we have. I don't know about here in Zimbabwe.
Yes, Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Richard. Hassan, what are you doing to make this information that you're publishing more attractive to the youth would rather, listen to a musician, an influencer talking about other issues and neglecting critical issues such as transparency and good governance. So what are you doing to make this more attractive?
Yes, recently the people have been understanding how the open data is more important than other things they are trusting. When we are doing a coverage about the budget, with the government has already reduced the parliament bust, we usually use different headlines, which is inside the budget. For example, if we use a headline which is how money the government allocated for the transportation for the government officials, then the people are interesting that we use. And it depends on the headline we are choosing for your story. And also the people you are invited to the story to be interviewed for convincing the people to hook them and follow your story. Basically, we usually do that.
What are you doing to attract more youths in Nigeria? I know the youths in Nigeria already, they kind of hooked, but what are you doing to attract them to this issue?
Yeah, I mean, we're using very fanciful...
In a minute.
Aye. We're using very fanciful infographics. Some organizations have infused pop culture into their work. Nigeria is big on Afrobeats. So the ones that are affordable, they get them on campaigns, so when you go to a protest, for example, and you see Fowls the bad guy, there, it brings people together. At least for some few 10, 20 minutes, they're talking serious business. The next minute, they go back to whatever they want to go back to. So it's still a very, very tough drive, trying to ensure to, have citizens stay on the real issues that matters. I was saying to Tonga yesterday, and I said, there's nothing stopping Shoko Festival from going, across African countries, because it's a blend of everything. It's a blend of fun, it's a blend of real talk, it's a blend of the right kind of conversations, so we need to, this is an export material, it needs to be exported, across Africa. And when we are able to build those little communities here and there, we'll then be able to salvage the entire continent.
In Nigeria, budget hearing.
Yeah, we have budget hearings. Yeah, we have budget hearings. We have budget hearings at community stages also.
And we recently had a consultation meeting, just looking at the previous year's budget, and in one of the venues, only 10 people showed up. And I love the work that budget is doing. I think it's something that, we should also look at and try to simplify that data, because I even had a Twitter space with some of the members of parliament who were part of that team, and they were saying that the information relating to budget is complicated, and majority of the people don't understand it. You said that they like to hide whatever they're doing within those numerous pages, but you have gone and simplified that data so that they're able to understand what's going on. And Hassan says that there's need to also use catchy headlines so that it attracts the youth. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. But before you go, I don't want this to be just a talk show. This is the inaugural Open Data Summit. What is it that we can resolve today to say, as I know, Carol, you're going to come up later, but Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, Nigeria, and Somalia, and Zimbabwe, what is it that we can start working on until the next Shoko Festival together? What is it that we can do together? Maybe collaborate on an idea, on a certain issue, so that it's not just a talk show. We are working towards something when we meet again next year, and then we'll be discussing the success or the challenges. Anything off it? I know I put you on the spot, but
you're making it sound as if this talk show is actually not a good thing also.
it is.
So yes, these talk shows are very good because of the cross-pollination of ideas and experiences. From this is what we have to sustain, okay? Because sometimes the problem with talk shows is when they become talk shows when they are once off, okay? we can collaborate. It's expensive, I know, but you see, that's why we're talking about open data. We can leverage digital resources that we have been collaborating on. We can do distant conference online, okay? We can be having monthly meetups to sustain the conversations so that what we are learning from Nigeria, from Somalia, and also from Zambia, we influence. At the end of the day, it's about influencing for us and the sustainability. How do we sustain this conversation? How does it become into something we can put a finger on? How can we influence policy here where we are? Also, I know it's difficult to influence policy in certain environments, but also maybe just galvanizing, conscientizing citizens, just empowering citizens with this kind of information is also a result that we can look at. So we are recommending sustainability using maybe online resources. We all have access at least to a bit of data for an hour. We could be having monthly meetups and be having these kind of conversations with different experts. Sometimes we don't even need experts. We need ordinary people to come and talk, students and all this and that. That would be our take home.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to double down on what he has said. That there's a need for us to become more deliberate about these conversations. And I like the idea that he brought in students. For me, students in the university are very critical to the next level of everything, because they still have energy, they still have time, and all. And they're in that development phase where it's easy for them to push anything they want to push, as much as it's ideological. So I think, we could probably begin to engage the population of students, because those are low-hanging fruits, waiting to be tapped. I also think that, we could have these conversations cut across every country. It's big budget, but it's achievable. Let's have Shoko Festival, move from one country to the other, so that you not just listen to thoughts from one person, you can listen to a whole community. And it's going to be more healthy. I'm picking up a whole lot of things because I'm in Zimbabwe. I'm excited. I've met my good friends from Somalia, Zambia, Kenya, and Uganda, and I'm picking up a whole lot of things. Imagine if I am in that country. It's going to be really that family affair, but on a larger scale.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to be having another conversation where we are discussing acting fast, documenting human rights violation during Ugandan elections. So let's take a short break, a 10-minute break, and then come back in, and then we'll have the next conversation.
We have to take the